What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a movie that I feel like's had a lot of buzz around it recently, especially when it comes to discussing the performances. And I saw this trailer a few times when I went to the theater earlier this year, and I wasn't able to catch this movie while it was in its theatrical run, but now it's available on VOD, and I definitely wanted to check it out before the Oscars come around because I feel like there are going to be some Academy Award nominations for this movie. And the film I'm going to be discussing with you today is Conclave. Conclave is directed by Edward Berger. After the unexpected death of the Pope, Cardinal Lawrence is tasked with managing the covert and ancient ritual of electing a new one. Sequestered in the Vatican with the Catholic Church's most powerful leaders until the process is complete, Lawrence finds himself at the center of a conspiracy that could lead to its downfall. So, I love movies centered around like a religious drama. This director made All Quiet on the Western Front, which I thought was a really fantastic war movie, great cinematography, and there's also some phenomenal actors involved in this movie, which made me really excited to see it, and this movie was fantastic. I know this isn't necessarily going to seem like everyone's cup of tea when they watch the trailer for it. It's a very dialogue-heavy movie, it's a very thought-provoking movie, but I think it's very interesting because it covers a lot of subject matter that I think is very important. As someone who has discussed multiple times on this channel that was raised in the church by a minister who no longer practices the faith, I am a non-believer. I feel like this movie does a phenomenal job bringing up a lot of the reasons why people want nothing to do with the hypocrisy of the church. And I think it's a really interesting look at faith and belief and churches that are trying to make progress, but what's setting them back, the issues that are involved in the church. And there's so many amazing things going on in this movie that I'm really looking forward to discussing with you today. So without getting too into detail, because it's a very complex with all the character introductions, at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Cardinal Lawrence, played by Ralph Fiennes, and the Pope has recently passed away, and we learn that he is in charge of bringing all of the cardinals and the people involved in the Catholic Church together to hold the election for the next Pope, and it is something that is kept very under wraps. They all go into this place, they're essentially locked away from everyone, and they have to get, I believe it's 2/3 of a majority vote for a candidate in order for them to win the position of Pope. And so there's a lot of scandal and things going on. We learn really early on about a lot of the different candidates that are trying to become Pope. Lawrence himself is really not that interested in it. He doesn't believe that he would be very good at the job. And one of his closest friends in the group is played by Stanley Tucci. His name is Bellini, and he's very hesitant to be a Pope as well. He just doesn't feel like he's fit for that job. But the two of them are part of the Catholic Church that is much more liberal. They're very progressive towards the LGBTQ community and towards abortion access and things of that nature, where they're trying to move the religion forward so that they're much more accepting of all people. But you have other people that are running as well. You have this man named Tedesco, who is very, very conservative. He's clearly very racist towards certain groups with the way that he talks. He is not about accepting the queer community. He wants to essentially push the church back 70 years, and those guys don't want him in. There's a man from Nigeria who is trying to run to become Pope, and a lot of people are excited about the fact that he's running as a black man, but the Liberal Party is very hesitant because he is very homophobic, and they think that he's going to set them back multiple years with how they've become more accepting. And there's a man who shows up that is serving out of the country, and he's there to be a part of the election, and some votes have slipped in for him as well. And we also have Tremblay, who is played by John Lithgow, who is also running. And so the entirety of the film is Lawrence's character trying to make sure this election goes smoothly while also uncovering a lot of scandal and conspiracy about the election and trying to make sure that it's handled correctly and that everyone knows the truth when it comes to who they're going to vote for. So this is a very much like dialogue heavy film. This is a movie with characters sitting in a room or standing in a room having intense conversations. And like I said, it's fantastic, and there are a multitude of reasons for that. For starters, performances. Ralph Fiennes should be one of the front runners for Best Actor this year. This performance is incredible. Everything about his performance, not only just the way that he moves throughout a room, but the delivery of his dialogue, the passion in his dialogue. He's a phenomenal actor, and he has been his entire career. before. But I think this movie really does a fantastic job showcasing what really makes him a special talent. And I was just hooked to the screen anytime that he was speaking. I mean, Stanley Tucci was great in this movie. John Lithgow was fantastic in this movie. Isabella Rossellini shows up in this, and she's fantastic. Each and every actor in this movie just delivers powerhouse performances. And that's why it's so compelling, is because the way these incredible actors deliver their dialogue really make it captivating. The cinematography in this is breathtaking. There are some amazing shot selections in this movie. There's one in particular, I love the way it's lit. They go into this like auditorium space, and there's this very like small ray of light kind of circling this small group of people. There's so many incredible shots that just capture your eye. And when you're making a movie that's very dialogue heavy, that's driven based off motivations of characters, you have to focus heavily on the cinematography to get your audience to stay invested. And I think they do a phenomenal job here. There was never a moment that I wasn't 100% interested in what was going on screen. And that just made the experience even better. The choice of music and sound in this really create an anxiety-inducing experience. Obviously, the main characters we're watching, they're much more liberal-minded and progressive. They're trying to fight so that the Catholic Church doesn't go in a direction that regresses at 70 years. And so they're fighting very hard to make sure that these people, the person who gets elected, is not going to do those things. And so because it keeps faltering one way or the other, it makes the tension kind of go through the roof. And that's what I liked so much about it, was the utilization of all of those techniques to create just a really enthralling viewing experience. And like I said at the beginning of the video, I was raised in the church. I'm a non-believer now, and there are a ton of reasons. I could make a 50-minute video, all the reasons why I am a non-believer and why I don't go to church. And I've said this before, I don't disrespect anyone who practices religion. If you want to believe in something and it makes you feel more comfortable and it provides you some sort of sanity in your life, by all means do that if that's what brings you some sort of comfort and joy. When religion starts infringing in the rights of other people and it starts to control other people's lives, that's when I have a problem with it. And I think this movie does a phenomenal job examining all of the issues that happen in the church. I had to laugh a couple of times in this movie when people would get exposed for things that they've done, and their immediate justification was, well, God told me to. And I saw that so much in my youth, when people would do absolutely horrible, terrible things to one another, or they would manipulate people in the church, and leaders would do certain things that they weren't supposed to, and they would always use, well, God told me to, as an excuse. And it's so, the way that it's delivered, it's in such like, they try to say it with conviction, and it comes across as so slimy and conniving and evil. And I love the way that the director approached that. I think it's really brilliant. There's so many great conversations here surrounding like race and the perception of certain groups. The liberal members of the group are much more open to other people being able to practice their religion and just everyone operating independently. But the super conservative one is out to get all these other religion, and he's ready to go to religious war. And it's really interesting. We have this candidate from Nigeria who's a black man that's trying to run, but he's also incredibly homophobic. And so it's like people are excited at the thought of a black man becoming the Pope, but also worried about the fact that he is incredibly homophobic. And so there's all of those issues that come into play as well. And I think each one is handled with such delicacy. There's this brilliant monologue delivered by Ralph Fiennes, where I'm going to paraphrase a little bit here because I don't remember it exactly, but he talks about the most important thing, that quality that a person becoming Pope could have, is the willingness to challenge your faith and to question things, because he says we would never progress all these years later if we hadn't questioned our belief and questioned what we believe in. And I think that's so incredibly important, because so many people that are indoctrinated into religion think that every single thing that they are told by their superiors, they should believe at face value. And what I'm telling you, as someone who was raised in that and who still knows the Bible back to front because of how many times I had to read it when I was growing up, read on your own, experience things in life, read other literature, understand where this book was written, understand the things surrounding it, because it will provide you a lot more insight than you just believing what you're told. And I think that's what's so incredible about this movie, is it's telling you, question things, be willing to ask questions, be willing to research and understand things on your own instead of just believing everything at face value. And where this movie went in the third act, I thought was so so incredibly beautiful and poignant, and so much of it was directly representative of what us in the United States are dealing with right now. So many of us are completely baffled at the results of the election and what American people have chosen for this country, with how vile of a human being this man coming into political office is, and just why people would choose someone who could legitimately regress the country back years and years and years in a multitude of ways. And it's mind blowing. But I think this movie opens up discussion around a lot of points where it's like people wanted to choose between the lesser of two evils and this, that, and the other. You're only given so many choices. And it's really fascinating. And it asks a lot of really pertinent and important questions. And I just think it's a phenomenal film. I think it's something I'm going to grow to appreciate more. If I had any qualms with this, there's a couple of moments where I didn't think the pacing was perfect, but that's a very minimal gripe for how really incredible the movie is. And I think if you're interested in this whatsoever, I would 100% recommend that you go check it out. So have you seen Conclave? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I loved this movie. I thought it was fantastic, and I'm really looking forward to checking it out again. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material and look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching and have a great rest of your day.